and turn it over to Susan. Well, tell us a little bit about this deal and who you are and how it all worked.
Okay. So I'm Susan Aubin. I'm with Merchants Mortgage. We're a short-term portfolio lender. So this is a single-family residence in Lenexa. And right now you're seeing a couple of before and after pictures of the kitchen. So I have a borrower who purchased this property. Now you've got a couple other pictures. Yeah. So I have a borrower who purchased this property in December of 2019. Here we go. There's some details there. It was listed on the MLS for $220,000, and it was listed for a little bit, maybe a month or so. So he put in an offer for $185,000, and it was accepted. So he rehabbed it. We lent him 100% of his costs, purchase price and rehab and closing costs. And you can see the pricing there was at 9 3/4 and 1 3/4 points. Interest only monthly payments, no prepayment penalty, and it was a 6-month term. Now, I want to be full disclosure here and tell you that the only reason he got 100% financing was because he had another property that was free and clear. So that got him to that, because normally we lend up to 90% of the purchase price and the rehab. But because he had this free and clear property, which was maybe worth $70,000, he was able to get everything else included, including his closing costs. He then sold the property for $268,000, and he sold it off market, so he had no commissions, and he sold it in March. It was like middle of March. So the numbers there show that he bought it, what he bought it for, and his rehab. So his total cost was $219,500, including his points and closing costs. He paid about $4,500 in interest for the couple of months that he owned it, and then he had about $5,000 in his seller closing costs. So then his net profit is there, and somebody just put something in the chat, so I can't see it. There we go, 40,000.
So I have some questions.
Okay.
So it was on MLS and it was listed for 220.
Yeah.
And he made an offer of 185, and the seller took a hit that much.
Yep.
Was it bank owned? Do you know?
No, it wasn't. No, it was a private owner, and she had vacated the property. I do know that. I don't know a lot of details on her situation, of course, because she was just the seller for my buyer. But he just kind of thought, well, had been out there for, it's in 4 colonies, which is really pretty desirable in Lenexa. And it had been out there, I think, about a month and a half or maybe even 2. And they had a lot of traffic. And so he felt like, and it needed work, and at 220, he felt like that was closer to retail. I mean, I think, 240, 250, would have been retail. Obviously sold it for 268, but that was after it was completely rehabbed. But, in the condition it was in, people just kind of kept looking at it and not biting on it. So he just decided, well, I'm going to put this offer out there and see if she takes it. And she did. She had already vacated it.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't real sure. The 1.75 points, that was in the $7,000 closing cost. So the closing cost to buy the $7,000, that included the points, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So this pretty much includes everything except like utilities and taxes and insurance.
Correct.
Okay, so there is a little bit more expenses off that $40,000.
A little bit, yeah.
Not a whole lot.
Right.
So that is a basic rehab, and this guy says this is 14 deals he's done?
Yep.
So that's a basic Kansas City deal on the Kansas side. So
on the Kansas side, yeah.
Are joining us from, out of state, and you don't know where Lenexa is, that is on the Kansas side. It's what?
Johnson County.
Central Johnson County, I would say. Okay. And then he sold it for $268 off market. That was one thing. How did he find, do you know how he found a buyer off market? Just somebody,
It was somebody he knows really well.
okay. Because we just sold a house off, well, it was listed, but the first buyer that called just drove up and wanted to look at it and made an offer. So
Yeah.
they have no agent, so there's no real estate commissions being paid. That was
Yeah,
pretty.
and he didn't even list it because it was somebody he knew really well and had walked through the property a few times while he was rehabbing it and wanted to buy it. So then he just wrote the contract. So it was